Welcome to Integrated Business Planning for Executives. This short video provides insight into how you can ensure that your organization maximizes value from its IBP investments. This video helps executives to maximize the value of integrated business planning, which can be as much as 5% of sales. Specifically, we'll identify 3 high-level capabilities that you should be asking about, ones that will ensure that your integrated business planning program fully achieves its value potential. It should be noted that this video assumes that viewers are already familiar with things like integrated business planning, sales and operations planning, and enterprise performance management. So let's get started. One of the reasons for making this video is that organizations aren't always realizing the full value from their efforts to improve how they plan and manage their business. Despite a variety of initiatives, many still have difficulty managing costs and profitability. To illustrate this, multiple research studies have found that 90% of those that launch cost reduction programs fail to sustain results for more than 3 years. In many cases, these experiences are indicative of organizations that are unable to effectively manage complexity. According to a study by A.T. Kearney, this capability gap is costing organizations upwards of 5% of sales. So before embarking on IBP programs, it's important to understand the nature of these gaps and what you can do about them. Provided on the screen are typical objectives of integrated business planning programs. As organizations become more complex, they often struggle to fully achieve them. These remaining capability gaps are depicted by the space between the white and yellow lines. A good example of this gap is scenario planning. It remains a significant challenge for both finance and operations because they lack sufficient forward visibility into potential risks. So let's explore this in a little bit more detail. One of the functions of scenario planning is to provide forward visibility into the risks shown on the screen. Now, some can assess individual risks in isolation, but few can do so quickly and simultaneously across multiple scenarios. In more complex organizations, this often represents gaps in their ability to manage these risks, which is depicted by the space between the white and yellow lines. A good example of this gap lies in the fact that many organizations aren't able to simultaneously quantify how variations in volume and mix affect direct cash flow, profits, working capital, and foreign exchange exposure. This requires a level of financial and operational integration that is beyond the capability of many planning applications. These capability gaps are important to understand because they're the same ones undermining the ability to achieve the 5 business objectives shown on the screen. What's common to them is that they all require superior cross-functional execution and alignment. And integrated scenario planning plays an integral role in supporting this. What's required to address these gaps is modeling logic that integrates strategic, financial, and operational planning and performance management. We're going to show you 3 modeling capabilities you'll need to address these gaps in the form of reports and graphs. By asking your IBP team to deliver them, you'll provide direction that dramatically improves the results from your IBP efforts. The first report involves integrated variance analysis. Mature systems automatically separate between demand volume, mix, productivity, and other variances when comparing between any combination of forecasts, actuals, and scenarios. Underlying this report is the modeling logic shown on the screen. More mature integrated business planning solutions embed things like bills of materials, routings, MRP, and other modeling logic into models that are shared by financial and sales and operations planning applications. This embedded logic enables 3 important process improvements. First, it integrates sales and operations planning with financial planning processes. A key enabler of such a process lies in the ability to automate integrated reconciliation, a key weakness in many traditional S&OP processes. Second, it enables more sophisticated scenario planning, where scenario differences can be quickly isolated. And third, planning processes are faster and more efficient, which is especially important for integrating sales and operations planning into our rolling forecast process. The second report provides the means to support effective cross-functional coordination. The graph on the right illustrates key performance measures of an order fulfillment process. It shows how cost per order goes up for the first 3 periods and declines with the implementation of a new process capability. It also shows how perfect order fulfillment and days in receivable also improve as a result of this new capability. There are 4 important points to make about this graph. First, It provides the means to replace fixed budgets with productivity targets, where metrics like cost per order can flex with business volume. Fixed budgets often lead to suboptimal decisions, while productivity targets focus employees on value. There are literally thousands of articles about this. As such, we won't address this budget issue further. The second point is to focus people on managing trade-offs between cost, quality, and service, with perfect order fulfillment being an example of a service metric. From a planning perspective, this means ensuring that perfect order and days and receivable targets can be achieved given the funding defined by the cost or productivity target. And from a management perspective, you don't want to achieve one at the expense of another. The third point is to establish shared rewards and accountability for maintaining the balance between these trade-offs. Such rewards should span all functions and entities involved in the process. And the last point is that by focusing on these trade-offs, organizations can change the culture of a business by promoting more of a business owner mentality. A key enabler of effective cross-functional coordination is the report on the left. It shows how functional and process plans and costs can be reconciled. Some call this matrix planning. The red circle at the bottom right denotes that the two totals are the same. Such a report is essential because it enables confidence in the math that underlies the graph on the right. Underlying more mature forms of matrix planning is the ability to plan and manage capacity. This is illustrated by the graph on the left. Well, some call this activity-based planning. Others refer to it as enterprise S&OP, where S&OP is extended outside of manufacturing to the enterprise as a whole. Whatever it's called, such modeling capabilities enable a more mature form of integrated business planning. Organizations often seek to improve cross-functional coordination. However, process management efforts are not always supported by traditional functional management practices, such as budgeting. Without the capabilities outlined in the previous slides, conflicts can arise. Integration provides the means to reconcile these conflicts and to ensure that key cross-functional objectives and initiatives yield desired results. The last report quantifies how business investments affect the cost structure of the value chain. The graph shows the cumulative costs across a value chain. In this example, the graph is depicting the value of strategic sourcing efforts. While there may be higher upfront costs, as depicted by the blue bars, the sourcing decision results in lower total costs. Measuring value in such cases can be very complex. It can require a combination of bills and routings together with activity-based planning, especially in situations where significant volume and mix variances arise across multiple entities. And it's the absence of such planning and measurement capabilities that is one of the primary reasons why organizations struggle to drive value from cross-functional initiatives such as strategic sourcing. This graph illustrates how the previous one can be expressed in terms of cash. Now, providing such analysis is even more complex. However, embedded modeling logic makes this infinitely simpler. In summary, this report illustrates the importance of having sophisticated models to plan and measure the value of key strategic initiatives. Supporting such analysis requires the ability to maintain multiple versions of these models. In this case, insight is provided into the value of vendor portfolios. Similar examples can demonstrate the ability to plan and manage the value of product and customer portfolios. This screen provides a summary of the three reports that we've just discussed. As a senior executive, providing direction to an IBP team can be as simple as directing them to deliver these reports and graphs. In most cases, such direction will cause them to make different process design and technology decisions than they would have otherwise. As such, these examples can be important tools in setting direction for your IBP team. Further information about the requirements underlying these three reports and graphs are summarized in an example RFI document, which is illustrated on the right side of the screen. Such insight can go a long ways towards avoiding decisions that undermine the value and effectiveness of IBP programs. Contact information is provided at the end of the presentation, should you wish to request a copy. There are two key takeaways from this presentation. First, IBP maturity is driven by the maturity of planning models and cost and performance management capabilities. Traditional EPM and S&OP don't support the level of maturity and integration illustrated by the three graphs we just reviewed. Therefore, Simply combining such tools will not always help you achieve your IBP objectives. The second takeaway is that the value of IBP is driven by two things. First, having the right insight about where resources should be deployed. And second, enabling fluid resources that move to where they are needed the most. Traditional IBP initiatives often support the first driver, but not always the second. This is illustrated by the red circle on the bottom right. The resulting capability gap is one of the primary reasons why IBP fails to deliver expected value. Addressing this requires an appreciation for the fact that budget reengineering is an integral part of more mature IBP processes. Moreover, the three capabilities we discussed are essential to such reengineering efforts. As such, a key driver of value will be IBP platforms that support reengineering of both S&OP and budget processes. What's been described in this presentation goes beyond integrated business planning. It really addresses the need for a broader approach to designing the management processes organizations use to plan and manage their business, especially in larger and more complex organizations. And the fact that the absence of such approaches is one of the primary factors that undermine the value and effectiveness of EPM, S&OP, and other management process initiatives. Additional information about the material contained in this presentation can be found in a recorded webinar, an outline of which is provided on the screen. This hour-long presentation goes into greater detail about the material addressed in this one. There are 4 key action items resulting from this presentation. First, if you haven't done so already, define your IBP objectives using the examples provided in the presentation. Second, identify potential capability gaps in your current and planned IBP processes. Third, determine how the 3 capabilities or reports we discussed in the presentation address these gaps. And fourth, assess the need for integrated budget and S&OP reengineering to realize the value of your IBP program. Please feel free to use the contact information provided on the screen if you require help with any of the action items, or if you have any questions or comments about the material contained in the presentation. Thank you for watching.